Hazer listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
She was going through a lot. She had just experienced a loss. Although I thought that this was unhealthy, I also thought in the back of my head, like, hey, she needs me.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it. I wonder if he truly did think it was unhealthy for him at the time, or if he looks back and very much knows it was unhealthy for him to go back to Lydia. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he, at the time, if you asked him, he'd be like, man, it should be okay. But the way he's telling the story, why would you want to even interact at all with someone like that? Or maybe Uche just has a really big heart, and even though he talks in a sort of robotic way, but he has a really big heart, which has been seemingly exhibited in the pods a little bit, and so he goes back to her. But then he says this phrase, she needed me. Okay. All right. I'm reminded of a style of relationship, of a rocky style of relationship, a toxic style of relationship, in which you have one person that will exhibit, the Lydia individual will exhibit, they wear their heart on their sleeve, and they can be very needy and very expressive about that. I need you, don't leave me, I need you, I want you, you're everything to me, while also having some attachment injuries that both amplify that neediness. And the attachment injuries also lead to a lot of terror around attachment loss, which can result in invasion of privacy for the partners, of abuse. Let's just call it. It's a form of abuse, what he claims that she did. And that on the other side of the dyad, you have an individual who also has attachment injuries, but they result in a style of coping with it of trying to control one's attachment and control one's expression. And yet this person really, really needs attachment and is very needy underneath it all, but not wanting to express it. And so these two people will fit well together, sometimes in a very toxic manner, in that for the pursuer, let's just call the, Lydia side the pursuer, that she gets someone who it has seemingly strength and stability in their emotions, because they don't react very much. They're reacting on the inside, but not so much overtly. And so the Lydias of the world can have a lot of reactivity, and the Uches of the world don't really, because if you have two people that are reacting in a volatile way, there will be an explosion often. Not all the time, but there can be. So a lot of times the Lydia style, in this camp, we have cluster B personality traits as well, which I won't go into, but anyway. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of reactivity, and then this person is logical seeming and stable and non-reactive. And then there'll be a reactivity, and then it'll calm down, and the relationship will still be there. So that's where the Lydias and the pursuers benefit. Then this person benefits, though, because deep down, they really want there to be contact, but they are afraid and don't necessarily even know to express that. So they need someone to bridge that gap. When they date, these more restrained individuals, when they date, if they come across someone that isn't like Lydia, there won't be any kind of a spark or any kind of movement. If two restrained people date, sometimes there'll be no spark because no one is bridging. There's too much distance, and also this person, the restrained person, is so desperate for closeness and they never ask for it, that they need someone to invade. That's actually what they're looking for subconsciously, is they want someone to invade, because it makes them feel loved and secure. They can say, well, this person, Lydia, when I date other people, I get the impression that they love me or that they're stable or they can be dependent on. But I definitely know that if I call Lydia, she will be there. And that is a much more immediate, sure thing that I want. I know there are things that come along with that are very bothersome to me, but I'm I'm so desperate for closeness deep down that I'll take it because it just feels good to be needed. It's very, when someone needs you desperately, you feel secure in your relationship. Anyway, so sometimes these individuals will say these kinds of phrases of, well, she needs me. And, because they'll feel superior sometimes, not narcissistic per se, but they'll feel like they are. And both people might even frame it this way. They'll be like, oh, you're the strong one and you're the stable one and you're not like me and with all my screwed upness. You're normal and mature and they're not actually. What they are is they're restrained and they are actively pushing back on what's happening. And if there is a blow up or something, because of their histories, both people will narrativize it to blame the reactive person. Because not only, because this person needs to blame the other person and also sees it that way, but also this person probably didn't have the best childhood, and part of their way of, trying to story the situation when they were a child was that there's a part of them that believes that they're not worthy and that they're lesser. Anyway, so for these individuals in this style of relationship, there can be a chronic nature to breaking up and getting back together. So I'm wondering if that's what we're hearing.
So I kept on talking to her until the point in time where I thought things were starting to turn around for her. She had gotten a whole bunch of new friends. She was going to therapy. She was doing a lot better. So I broke it off with her. And I don't know.
Wait. So we're hearing that she had a loss in her life. They weren't talking, and Uche knows about it somehow, feels bad, goes back to her because she needed me. And then they're a couple again, or they're dating, maybe non-exclusively, I don't know. And then he's saying that she gets into therapy. She has a whole new group of friends. She seems like she's doing okay, so I broke up with her. What? So it was a therapeutic coupling. Like you felt like, he's not saying that they became friends, right? He's saying that they were a couple. It's sort of
you're like, hey, she needs me. So I kept on talking to her until the point in time where I thought things were starting to turn around for her. She had gotten a whole bunch of new friends. She was going to therapy. She was doing a lot better. So I broke it off with her.
All right. The way he phrased it, it sounds like they weren't like official. Well, no, he did say I stopped talking to her. So that means they broke up, right? And then he says but maybe it was one of those relationships where the line isn't very easily defined, right? Like he goes back to her, but not officially. He just meets up with her one night to talk about what she's going through. They have a couple drinks and they have sex that night, but they don't have a conversation about like, are we together? Are we not? And then just kind of drifts into the next few weeks where they do see each other occasionally and they just both don't bring up the topic. Who knows? We could see a scenario like kind of sounds like an off and on again sort of situation. But anyway, the fact that he would just say, well, I was with her not because I wanted to be with her, but because she had a loss in her life. And then once her life was doing okay, well, then I left her again. So on one hand, that's pretty callous. On the other hand, it's not evil thing to maybe wait a little longer to break up with someone and to kind of make sure that everything's going okay in their life, I suppose. Okay. I don't know. What do you think?
But I'm like, wow, I should have told Aaliyah that because she would have known maybe Lydia still likes this guy. She's still obsessed with him. Maybe she doesn't have the best intentions when it comes to me. And maybe you would have been able to have your guard up a little bit more.
Okay, well, I'm glad he's saying that, and it sounds like Aaliyah is agreeing with that. So I wonder what Aaliyah will say, and we certainly saw that. I don't know, it's just hard to know. I'll take Uche's word for it, or the vibe he was, I think, trying to get across. Well, he did say even though I knew it was unhealthy. So I would have questions that I'm guessing we're not going to get details around. I would ask him, so are you saying that you were afraid of her? That you actually thought she was going to hurt you, or that she was going to take drastic actions to keep you around, to spread rumors, or I don't know, was there some sort of implication there? What was going on? Or were you just concerned about her lack of boundaries? There's a difference between being abused, someone being abusive and you feeling abused, and someone being abusive and you not you feeling abused. The example I sometimes give is if I'm on the bus and someone just starts calling me a bunch of names, they're maybe even racial slurs or something, and they're saying that, they're calling me all these names like I'm lazy or I look stupid or I am stupid. Well, generally speaking, I don't feel abused because this person doesn't know me, and in all likelihood, they're having some kind of an episode, I don't know, and they're being abusive, but I don't feel abused, I don't feel afraid. Whereas if someone were in my life and they wouldn't have to do much to make me feel abused, right? They wouldn't have to even do all those things. They could just every day criticize me in my intelligence or the way I look or something. Just sort of comments about like, oh, I don't know about that. Are you sure? Just even a face, right? It doesn't have to be super overt for it to be on the abusive spectrum and for me to feel abused and harmed through that activity. People sometimes ask like, what is abuse? What's the definition of it? And we don't really have in my field this hard and fast definition. It depends on the context, depends on the way we're using it. So I don't know, I would want to know from him. And that is a big question, a very important question that clinicians will ask is, do you feel safe? Because a lot will be known when you know the answer to that question. Now, sometimes people aren't safe enough to answer that question, or they don't even feel safe to explore it in their own minds, but that is an important thing. So I would want to know, did you feel unsafe, or did you just think she was not a great partner because she didn't respect boundaries? So yeah, but anyway, so it sounds like they're seeing eye to eye. Are they heading back to a relationship maybe?
I don't care about that part. That's normal. We're all adults. We date people. But to me, it was alarming because it's like, why are you so concerned about her and Milton's situation? You were making comments about her and Milton and whether he was truly ready for marriage. You didn't want her to get hurt.
Okay, they're playing the ominous music. I mean, all that can be true. I will hear the whole thing here, and you can see where Aaliyah's coming from. There's nothing strange about where she's coming from and just wanting to know and being suspicious that maybe Uche still has feelings for Lydia, which is natural for Aaliyah to wonder about. And then certainly the way Uche talks about the relationship, it doesn't sound like he's into Lydia, but, like I was saying before about the toxic style of relationship of a highly reactive pursuer and an underreactive avoider who is denying their own cleanliness and neediness, that they consciously will say and believe that they don't want to be with someone, but there is a draw, there is a gravity towards that person. Even in the face of someone, say that Uche and Aaliyah end up seeing each other into the future. Aaliyah isn't like Lydia in that way. At least it doesn't look like it. I mean, you could have different flavors of the pursuer, but it doesn't look like Aaliyah's like that. So if they end up going out, and if the hypothesis is at least near the mark regarding Uche being that kind of person, there's not a ton of evidence of that, but let's just say if it was, that consciously he'd be like, yes, I want to be with Aaliyah. Aaliyah is more stable. She is more trustworthy. She doesn't invade my space. She's not as clingy. She doesn't stalk me, that kind of stuff. So it feels good, and I want to be in this relationship. But deep down for Uche, he has a neediness that is not being met through Aaliyah, but he knows that Lydia will meet that need because Lydia will completely be so needy that it will be all-encompassing, and he needs that occasionally. That would be a concern that Aaliyah would wonder about. I would wonder about that if I were Aaliyah. It wouldn't be a major question, but it would be a question.
Her and Milton and whether he was truly ready for marriage. You didn't want her to get hurt.
Right, and so for Uche, and we'll hear the rest of this, but even though Uche didn't want to be with Lydia anymore, it sounds like he doesn't hate Lydia. So Uche would have known that Lydia was pursuing Izzy and got rejected by Izzy. I'm guessing that Uche might have known that. And then for Uche, he notices that now Milton and Lydia. And you could imagine, just putting aside the ominous music, you could imagine that if Uche were trying to be a good friend, a good ex-partner for Lydia, looking out for Lydia, when Uche hears Milton talk, you could imagine Uche going like, I don't know if Milton is such a great match for Lydia, because Milton he's not talking like the sort of person that is definitively in love and wants to spend the rest of his life. I don't want Lydia to be hurt. I'd much rather, because, Milton isn't super expressive, right? So you can imagine if Uche was being on the up and up and being caring, then he might voice those concerns to Aaliyah, either just as making conversation and just sharing with your partner about something that you're dealing with, or as a way of hoping that Aaliyah will tell Lydia to maybe watch out for Milton or something like that. We don't know Uche's motivations, but we could imagine that. Or was Uche either overtly or covertly to himself, subconsciously trying to undermine the relationship between Milton and Lydia so that Uche could have Lydia all to himself? Or is it possible that people are implying that Uche and Lydia are still together and came on the show knowing that they were a couple and they just did it for clout or whatever? That's interesting to think. That's possible, right? Not likely, and I don't like to think that about people, but it's possible. And for Aaliyah, anyway, there's a question mark there enough so that she's asking it, and maybe that was one of the reasons why she bolted.
I felt like there was still connectedness there. I also found out that she knew you were going to be here before you guys got here.
She told somebody that?
She told a couple of the girls the first day we were there that she had a feeling that she was going to run into somebody from her past.
Well, so maybe Lydia just had that thought and didn't know, but it sounds like there might be some more detail here. But yeah, I mean, given everything that we're hearing, it certainly is possible that Lydia followed him onto the show. There's a number of possibilities. One is that this is one massive Machiavellian scheme of hers to get him back or to sabotage or get close to him or something. Another is that she knew he was on the show or suspected he was going to come on the show, and which wouldn't be unusual if it was just 2 or 3 months prior to the shooting of the pods, the filming of the pods, that they were dating. Because my impression is that the production reaches out to people, months in advance, because they have to vet people and make sure that, and I'm sure they actually have a lot of people who sign on the dotted line, and then at the last minute or last month or week or something, they actually just take 30, because what if someone gets sick with COVID, for example, or someone has a medical issue, or they drop out at the last minute, or they get married, they meet someone in the interim days. So I'm guessing they have a lot of. Anyway, so the other possibility is that Lydia knew or suspected he was going to be on the show, and she thought, maybe I should go on the show too. Maybe subconsciously wanting to get with Uche, but consciously thinking, but I don't want to be with him because he's ended things with me, and so that's that. So maybe, there's a middle zone there where she was like half stalking him or something. And by stalking, I'm not using the word in the way, and maybe we shouldn't use that word in the more light. Sometimes people will say, I cyber stalked you the other day because I went into your LinkedIn and figured out that you were working at this one place. We use that if I was meeting up with a friend, I might say to them, I cyberstalked you the other day. I looked at your LinkedIn and found that you had this job. And I feel like maybe we shouldn't use that word, because stalking is a serious matter. And I feel like there's another word that we could use, like I cyber invaded your privacy or something. It's to me a lighter term. But anyway, so could it have been some middle zone? I don't know. Or is there no hard evidence? Maybe there's no hard evidence that she knew he was going to be on the show. But, the larger issue here is that Lydia exhibits a lot of behavior that's factual, that we saw with our own eyes, the way she was invading Aaliyah's privacy and her wishes and bulldozing and, look at me, I am you, all those kinds of odd statements. We have that. We know that. And then there's a lot of other details, like taking a picture of his driveway, that kind of stuff, that raise questions. And if she didn't have those actual factual behaviors that we observed, then we might say, well, but there's no reason to suspect. So even if a third of the allegations or suspicions are legit, that's still very concerning, right? So I say all this because sometimes I'm like, well, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's a lot of he said, she said. There's a lot of vague stories. What's going on there? And it feels not very satisfying, but sometimes you say, well, but we do know this, and therefore that does paint those questions in a different light, and we might be able to draw some kind of conclusion.
And I'll be honest, Uche, for a while after your reaction, I was questioning whether you both plan to be here together. I didn't know if this was like I'm like, well, damn, if y'all wanted to go on TV, y'all should have done.
So I hope that Uche calms down if he does intend on being with Aaliyah, because it's of course rational for Aaliyah to have wondered that. And I don't think Aaliyah is saying, and I believe that that's true. I think she's just saying, and to be honest, I was wondering about that. The best thing Uche could say in this moment, but I don't think he's heading that direction, is to say, I totally understand why you would think that, given how this looks. I'm telling you, that's not the case. I don't know about her, but I know that I had ended that. I came on the show to meet you. And if I wanted to be with Lydia, I would have been with Lydia. I wouldn't have come on the show. Why would I do that? And I did not want to jeopardize me finding my person, So just validate. I could see how you'd believe that. But the message, I think he's going in the direction, and we've seen this pattern, and you just might want to think about how you react to people or how people have reacted to you, because there might be a belittling aspect to the way he reacts. Just like this face is like, in his mind, he's trying to exhibit how ridiculous that is as a way of saying, no, you have to trust me on that. I can be trusted and I want you to trust me. But what message might be coming across is you're a fucking idiot is the message that I think he can perhaps inadvertently communicate at times.
I'm like, well, damn, if y'all wanted to go on TV, y'all should have done the ultimatum.
Why the hell would we do that?
I don't know.
That doesn't even make any sense. What would have been the plan? We would have came there and we would have pretended that we didn't know each other, and then we would have developed this fake relationship, then we would have went out to the real world. All of our friends.
Lydia doesn't know how it came out that they knew each other on the show, because, well, it's also possible that Lydia's saying, well, no, I guess there's that, but there's also the possibility you just came on the show, I don't know, for some other kind of weird reason. Maybe not to be together, but you wanted to be each other's wingman or something. Well, I don't know. If the accusation is they wanted to come on the show so they could end up together in the end, and you could imagine people thinking that, right? That would be a thought that people would have. That they would say, you know what, we just started dating, we're not all over each other's Instagram, and what if we went on the show, because I just got contacted, and they don't know that I'm with anyone, and so maybe you can reach out to them, and we'll act like we don't know each other, we'll meet each other in the pods, and we'll fall in love, and they'll pay for the wedding. Yeah, and we'll be these stars, will be these darlings of a good couple, and we'll try to be nice to everyone, and we'll manufacture a little bit of a fight at some point just to give them something to film. Yeah, it'd be hard to do though, but possible. But it'd be hard. It'd be hard to do that. It'd be hard. It's harder for people to lie consistently and over time, especially when you have to really act like it. But I'm trying to think. I'm just using this as a thought because I'm trying to think how hard it would be. I'm just saying if I were in those shoes, which is weird to think. So just to say, Stacy and I, let's say we weren't married and and we think, oh, we should go on the show. Yeah, that'd be really hard to be like, oh, Stacy, how are you? So, do you have any siblings? Well, maybe it wouldn't be that hard, especially when you're in the pods and you have 14 other little dates. You just sort of say to yourself, okay, I gotta make sure I just ask the same questions with the same tone. Yeah, and then you just start having these long conversations and you start acting like you're revealing things to each other. And, yeah, I guess it wouldn't be that hard now that I think about it. And I pray that that never happens on the show, because I want this to be as close to reality as possible so that it's more enjoyable to watch.
I said something, even though I felt like it was a joke. I can admit that maybe she had a right to take it wrong.
What did you say?
I said, if Uche doesn't propose, you can have him back. But I didn't mean it. Like, I didn't mean it.
But you did mean it. But you did mean it.
Not really.
Okay. She seems to be on board with his claim that it is ridiculous that they came on the show, or at least that he came on the show knowing that Lydia was going to be on the show. It sounds like that she was saying earlier, to be honest, I had this thought, but she doesn't actually truly believe that. She wouldn't want to be with Uche necessarily if that were the case, right? So then she's saying that at some point in I think she needs to elaborate more for Uche. It sounds like maybe Uche is on the fence, maybe, to come back with Aaliyah. I think Aaliyah really needs to elaborate more. Okay, let me tell you what was going on in that moment. When I said you can have him back, let me explain what was happening there. But the way Aaliyah describes it, she's like, yeah, I was just kind of joking, and that doesn't really land, right? I think there is a very reasonable story, an understandable story as to what led up to that. For me, I'm imagining that the conversation, and I'm surprised we haven't seen it, right? That they don't include it, because you just know everything was filmed, but maybe the show is showing some level of altruism to not have some material that's beyond a certain threshold. I don't know. So given what we saw, one possibility is that at some point, Aaliyah starts saying to Lydia, I don't want to hear any more, and I don't understand what is going on here. And maybe not fully articulating what's going on for her, because she doesn't really know what's going on. She just feels like something's wrong here. And so Aaliyah is saying, something critical or rejecting of Lydia. And giving Lydia's way, she just continues to bulldoze or do her thing, and maybe resorting to that pursuing, look at me, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be, and I really am pulling for you, or whatever. And Aaliyah's just like, you can have him back, or maybe even the conversation was that Lydia and Aaliyah are talking, and Lydia starts to elaborate more and more about their life, and then Lydia starts talking, kind of implying that she really loves Uche, and Aaliyah is just like, Jesus, like, you can have him if you want. Like, maybe Aaliyah's getting this impression like Lydia is not only bulldozing just boundary-wise, but also is trying to overpower and if you have a bottle of water and a friend of yours is just like, oh my God, water is the best, and water is just such a thirst quencher, and the purity of water, and it just, when I drink water, and eventually it's like, Jesus, did you want my water? You can have him. What's happening right now? I don't know. It'll stop what you're doing to me. So maybe for Aaliyah, maybe that's what happened or something. Because the way that it sounds, and the way that Uche, I think, is interpreting it, is that for Aaliyah, her dedication or love for Uche is extremely fragile. And I think that is his primary worry. There's a lot of indications that I think he's seeing that aren't necessarily true, I don't think, along those lines. The infidelity in the past, and how, a number of details that the way she's described it at first could indicate to him that Aaliyah might have a hard time with commitment, or a very easy time running away. And instead of talking about it or breaking up, she just decided to cheat, right? It's just this very easy, running away. And then with obviously leaving the pods, just boom, right? It's another mark in that column for him. And then hearing about this detail, I think that's what's alarming him. And I think it's not actually alarming, because I don't think that's what's actually happening. And I think if Aaliyah were just to tell him the whole story, I think he would see, oh, I understand why you did that.
But you did mean it. But you did mean it.
Not really. it was ruining the experiment for me. When I left, I didn't think we wouldn't continue to try to explore a relationship. That wasn't the ending that I was expecting. I regret it. So what do we do now?
And maybe she does have a problem with running very quickly from things, of just throwing her hands up and saying, I'm out of here. Like in a job, for example, that is getting frustrating and she isn't assertive enough because she has been through some things in her life so that she doesn't assert herself with a boss, for example. And this pressure is building up inside of her, and then something big will happen, and then it all comes out and she quits. She just ghosts her job, sort of a thing. And we could see that being an issue. I don't know, but it's possible. I mean, especially given what happened when she left the pods. She seemingly really wants and has always wanted, since her and Uche hit it off, she wants to be with Uche. So why would you just ditch him without sending a letter or talking with him in the pods, or telling production to just tell him something? Because production is saying she didn't even tell us to tell him anything. She was telling us a lot of things. This is, I think, in that article, right? Yeah, it'd have to be in that article I read. She was telling us a lot of things, but she never said, please tell him these things. And it wasn't our place to pass along that information. So we didn't know what to say. So all we said was, she has left the experiment. We knew a lot of things based on what she was telling us, but we didn't feel it was our place to communicate that. So why would she not do that? And not that she's a jerkface, but that her anxiety or her lack of noticing what's happening for her on the inside is potentially the problem, and then it just overflows to the point where she's overwhelmed, and then there's only one answer to that, and that's run.
But then I also have those doubts as well. The experiment was very stressful, but so is a marriage.
Right.
I've witnessed my parents go through things in their marriage that would make the experiment look like a game of musical chairs.
I think what he's communicating is that his parents have been through a lot of stress. I don't know if he's just saying from the outside or from inside or both. But then he says musical chairs. Oh, I think what he's saying is he's seen his parents break up and get back together, or maybe with other people, maybe step relationships, right? That's the metaphor, right? Musical chairs is like where you switch things a lot.
They never abandoned each other. They never left each other. Maybe you've reached the point now where...
Wait, what? I don't know why I'm so confused today. Is it just my brain? I did kind of have a late night with some friends, so... And Stacy is out of town right now, and I don't think she's watching the show, so I can't ask her. That's usually what I'd do. I'd be like, what was he saying? What did you hear him saying?
But so is a marriage.
Right.
I've witnessed my parents go through things in their marriage that would make the experiment look like a game of musical chairs. They never abandoned each other. They never left each other.
Okay, so he's saying they never abandon each other. So what's the musical chairs? I think I'm terrified because there are times when I do miss things, which is natural, and I will be heavily criticized in the comment section for missing something, even though I'm trying my best. But I know that can be annoying. When I'm watching something, I'm like, no, you don't get it. There's a thing. It's frustrating, and I get it. But I want to feel safe to make those mistakes because I'm going to make them. But I don't even know if I'm making them right now. So I'm going back to my notes with Uche and that I took on the very first episode. And there is a detail in my notes about him that he said that he's been single for 2 years and he's ready to switch up his dating habits. So what does he mean by single? But it doesn't sound like he was single. But, maybe he was never exclusive with Lydia. And so for him, that's being single, right? But anyway, so we're hearing that I don't know what he's saying. Is he saying that his parents so they've been through things that were like musical chairs, but they never abandoned each other. I don't know what he's saying. She nodded her head like, yeah, I know. So it sounds like she's heard from him some information about his parents. I don't know. But the message he's trying to get across is that, because I want to know his background. I'm always looking for background and at least something to hang my hat on when it comes to an hypothesis as to schemas and behaviors and defenses. But it's hard to do that on a reality TV show where there's so little information. The kinds of hypotheses that I develop with clients sometimes are quite elaborate and quite nuanced. No, they're not sometimes. They're always quite nuanced, and they're always quite specific. And even 5, 10, 15 years into treating someone, into having a client, it'll be 15 years into the therapy with a particular client, I will hear something new, and it will, drastically affect my hypothesis about their personality and their triggers and their schemas. That just happened to me the other day. I heard something from a client. I was just like, "What?" And I think I've been treating this client for 10 years or 8 years or something. And I thought, "Oh, wow, I did not know that. That really changes things and kind of explains a lot." And so that should give you an idea of how complicated people are and how any hypothesis that I propose for these folks is extremely reductive and simplistic, because that's what initial hypotheses always are, because you don't have enough information. So that's why I'm always looking for background. But anyway, what he's trying to communicate, he's saying, Aaliyah, I have seen some things that worry me about how quickly you will abandon, and I don't want you to do that. So please don't do that again. It sounds like they might be giving this another chance.
But the problem is, I feel like in your mind, you're separating our relationship from the experiment.
Yeah.
Right? You said, "Oh, I left, but I didn't think that was the end of our relationship." The experiment and our relationship are the same.
Yes and no, but I think it is a valid point that he's saying, well, you're selectively saying you left the experiment, but not me, but you did leave me. And when I heard from production that you had left, there's only one conclusion, which is that we're done and you don't want to be with me and you don't even care to tell me like that. So that's a valid point. But, to say that him and their relationship and the experiment are one thing, it depends on how you look at it.
I was learning to let go of the past and be more open and more accepting. And you were learning not to run away from your problems and being able to communicate. And
is he just making that up on the spot? She's nodding her head, but she does that when she's being bulldozed, so we don't really know what's going on in her mind. Or is that an established language that she has talked about, that she has a hard time with those things? Is that what she's nodding her head to?
When we had a disagreement, we sat there and we talked it out. And then here, out in the real world, I couldn't even get home from the pods, and you followed me on Instagram and then you unfollowed me. And then you sent me a voice message, and before I could respond to that, you deleted it.
Interesting. Okay. So I was wondering, when they just saw each other at this restaurant, that they didn't seem to be indicating that they had never seen each other, that they didn't have like, is that you? Oh my God, this is so weird to see you. So we're hearing that they did see each other in Instagram anyway. They looked each other up or something. But okay, so I'm just gonna take I don't know. I feel like I'm pulling for both, and I'm particularly pulling for Aaliyah. I believe that there's a reasonable reason as to why she was doing all these things. So I don't know why I have that bias. I, of course, could be wrong, but I hope that she explains. So we're hearing that she followed and unfollowed. I don't know. To some people, that's a big deal. To me, like if my wife unfollowed me on Instagram, I don't think I would know or care. I guess maybe I would ask, but I certainly wouldn't be like, I can't believe. But to some people, I understand that's a big deal, and I'm not denigrating that. It's just a culture or a way of seeing the world. So we're hearing that from him, and then we're hearing that she left a voice message, and then she she pulled it back. We can understand why she might do that too, because she's like, I don't know what's happening here. She could also be reacting to the way, at the very least, the way he was talking on the speakerphone conversation. He was saying, we're done. So you could see her being hurt by that and not wanting to put herself too far out there. You know, you could imagine her having a moment just like, oh, I want him back, but he's done with me, and he can be a jerk sometimes. So no, you know, you could imagine some kind of being on the fence. Is that what we're hearing? I don't know.
You blocked me. I had no way to contact you for 48 hours. I had to keep on checking your Instagram account until you unblocked me, and then I reached out to you.
Okay, Leah, explain what's happening for you. So I wonder if she isn't aware of why she does these things, which is possible, and or whatever it is that the story she tells herself as to why she does these things, that she's very ashamed of it. It's possible. She might even narrativize it in a very self-shaming way. Like she might say, I'm weak, or I am flighty. I make rash decisions, and I don't want to reveal that. And so I'm just going to say nothing, or some other kind of thing. You know, maybe there's even something kind of shady going on, like she started reaching out to a former partner herself and was temporarily thinking, oh, I should be with him instead of Uche or something. You know, it wouldn't be unusual to have that happen in a situation like this. But anyway, it would, at least for me, which of course she doesn't owe me anything, I would love to know, okay, what was your experience? Just tell your story. Don't just say everything's fine or I was just joking. Like, tell us your experience. I would love to, as a therapist, that is, I don't know, it's what I'm always looking for. I guess I might have even gotten into this profession because I like hearing that from people. It feels safe to know what was going on in people's minds. And often when I find these things out, it gives me hope for humanity, because so many things look so strange to us from the outside. But when we hear the story, we're like, oh, it's still strange, but at least I understand why that happened. And it's not intuitive that was behind the curtain.
With Lydia, you kept on saying, oh, you left because of her and because you couldn't deal with that situation. But the real reason is you didn't have confidence in me and you didn't have confidence in our relationship.
Is that true? It could be. And she might be obscuring it, I suppose, which wouldn't be weird if she just explained herself. I don't know if Uche could hear it, but I think it's possible he could if she just laid out how everything happened and her perspective and her emotions at the time. So I feel like looks like she's just giving up or shutting down or something.
I think it's over between us.
I understand.
What were the chances anyway? But that sucks. I feel like that sucks. I don't know why I'm saying that as a civilian. I'm not saying that as a therapist. As a therapist, I'm going to take a guess and say that their lives will be fine either way. I really do think that if Aaliyah could have explained more, there's so much behind the things that she did and the things that she said, I'm guessing. Unless it is something horrible, like she was hitting on, she blocks Uche because, there's this other guy that I'm into or whatever. Or she is very unsure about Uche because she doesn't know if she really loves him, like full stop, regardless of what happened with Lydia. But it doesn't seem like that's true. And it just seems like if she could have explained from the very beginning with the infidelity, if she just would have, as soon as she disclosed, she's like, yeah, I did cheat in the past. I have grown a lot since then. I look back at that person and I think, you should have just broken up with him. I had so much guilt for so long. And I know it was just 2 years ago, but I really dug down deep and figured out what was wrong with me at the time. And, I have my reasons, like, our sex in the relationship, we weren't having any sex, or my needs weren't being met sexually, and we were fighting a lot. That's not an excuse. That's what I thought was a good enough reason, but It's not. I just have a hard time being assertive. I wanted to break up with him, but I've grown since then. I've done a lot of therapy. I also wanted to tell him my complaints, and I kind of did, but I didn't really do it enough. I could have done more. I don't think it would have changed anything, but if she would have led with that, I think that would be different, or even just 10% of that in the beginning. But she didn't. She just says like, well, he wasn't meeting my sexual needs. That's why I cheated. Anyway, what else you want to talk about? And you're like, huh? And then let's say she bolts. As soon as they get on the phone, on speakerphone, she could just lead with what I imagine what was happening was like, Uche, I'm so sorry I did this. And I was panicking while I was, in the pod situation. Kind of because of you, but mostly just because Lydia, I was getting so much information from Lydia about Lydia, and it just threw so many things into question, and I was freaking out, and I was panicking. I didn't know what to do, and I just had to get out because I didn't want to be confined in this pod or in the hotel that we stay at. I just had to get home, and I'm so sorry. I said a lot of things to Lydia. She would have led with that. When she sits down here, if she would have done that whole thing, even around the blocking of Instagram. I know I blocked you on Instagram. Let me tell you what was happening. Something. But without that, then what's Uche supposed to conclude? It's natural for Uche to say, well, the facts on the ground are you abandon. That's what you do. You did it with your previous partner. You don't have a great story about that. Eventually, you did tell me that you felt guilty, but you don't feel like you did something wrong, and you never told him. So, and you don't seem to think that's a problem. Now, I'm not saying that Aaliyah is supposed to beat herself up about it or be ashamed. The way I role played the narrative, I hope you don't hear me role playing someone that hates herself or is beating yourself up. You're taking responsibility, but you're cringing at your past behavior, but you're not avoiding, you're not, you're facing it. Anyway, so facts on the ground are, the way you talked about the infidelity, you literally abandoned me in the pods for, I don't understand why. You tell me it's because of this and that, but that's not enough reason. You could have easily at least come to me. Then after the pods, you block me on Instagram for no reason. You do a couple other things, and facts on the ground, you abandon me. And I don't hear anything that gives me a reason to have faith that you're not going to do it again, or that you even recognize that you're doing it. So this is one massive red flag. And yeah, I'm going to call this off. And I guess as I say it out loud, it is potentially a wise choice, right? I mean, it's just a tragedy because I think that if I'm seeing it right, which I don't know, that it's true that Aaliyah could be characterized as someone that abandons, but I think there are reasons, but I think the reasons that are there, she doesn't feel good about those reasons enough to be able to say the reasons. And so the end result is that, yes, she, because you can be a good person. Aaliyah seems like she's a good person, and you can have all these things happening inside of you that result in essentially you being a very bad partner to people. And I don't think she's a very bad partner, because it's not like the pods is exactly emulative of real life. I was hoping that they would just date like Zach and Bliss and we would be able to see it, because I was really curious as to what would happen, because I was going to take a guess and say that nothing would happen to challenge their situation such that she would abandon Uche, at least in the time of being filmed. So then we would see that, and Uche would see that and go like, oh, maybe it was the stress of Lydia and the pods and stuff, and now it's a new thing. I don't know. It's just I guess I'm sad for both of them, because there was I don't know, I'm really conflicted. I really hope that whatever's going on with Aaliyah, that she either has already or is given the opportunity to explore that, get to know it, feel okay with it, and feel able to express that and feel good about herself. I guess I am kind of worried about, she got all dressed up and and she's being rejected. Yeah. I hope she's okay. Okay, well, let's adjourn there, and everyone please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.